I think when we're thinking about the project, what I want to have is some dialogue with you around how we see education, and a couple of things that have influenced Cooks, and you can respond to these, you can reject these, you can play with these as forms for yourself. But I've got gonzo pedagogy. So gonzo, based on the work of Hunter S. Thompson and the influence of Hunter S. Thompson, who was an American journalist, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and lots of political and really creative writing. And a gonzo pedagogy is what I would suggest. Gonzo is also from the Muppets, that's that little one. But gonzo pedagogy is what I would suggest is the possibility of us investing ourselves in the education and the learning, in the courses, in the projects that we build. Sometimes I feel that, there's a tendency in what we see as education of being more and more increasingly abstract and objective, and then objectified and commodified. It's becoming something that's packaged and able to be transferred without problem from one person and one community to another person and another community. And I think that's just false. We can't learn that way, we can't educate in that way without creating standardisation, and a standardisation that marginalises very, very many people. So instead of beginning from those positions of looking for some pure knowledge, we begin from the idea that learning and teaching is invested with the person, with the self, with you. And your story and the community that you want to work with invests itself not only in being the people that will be involved in the learning, but the people that decide what that learning is and how that learning should take place, and what technology it includes. I've also got down here art brute, and in more of a discussion around Cooks I've called it tech brute. And the brute means raw. Art brute is also sometimes called, it's an artistic movement, and a movement in art, sometimes called outsider art, and it's the idea from an artist called Jean de Buffet that art is actually more meaningful, more powerful when it comes from people beyond the trained academy, where the usual, even when trying to be unusual, or even when attempting unusuality, or even when the academy creates shock, it does so from within the position of its own academy norms and conventions, even when it's shattering norms and conventions. Outside the academy, and de Buffet looked at places such as mental health institutions dealing with people that were considered outside because of mental issues, prisoners, people marginalised from society. I'm not suggesting that you need to go to particular spaces to find your communities, but what I do think is the beauty of what comes from de Buffet's idea of art brute, and what we can find in tech brute, is that by giving people the tools, in our case the technologies and the dialogue and the community and the concept of course, what they produce next is not necessarily already defined. We could be and we can be agents there of creating newness. So that's the art brute. It's an old, again, that's what the object of Cooks, did it begin with that? Perhaps. It at least began with the possibility of that, and that's what came through much of the discussion. We had so many courses coming from people who were working with mental health groups that found themselves ostracised by either medical definitions or social problem definitions, and actually they just wanted active participation that recognised issues of anxiety, issues of loneliness, issues of being excluded in other areas. They didn't necessarily see it as a problem, that they were the problem. They saw their experiences as being problematic, and they wanted a place to express themselves. That's a good thing for us here, I think. So something for you to go at. And over in the corner, just to end, I have a comment of never complete down there. But that again is a Cook's thing, that in terms of learning it's never complete, and I suppose in lives we do complete, don't we? There's no doubt about that there is one inevitability for us all that we will be completed. But in terms of learning, do we have courses that have fixed dates, ends, times? In terms of us now, we have a project, we're part of a formal course. Yes, we have a deadline for this, we have a completion date for the course, and they are necessary for us. And they give us comfort sometimes, and they also give us structure, and they give us a series of deadlines that we can aim to and hit and complete. But within your course, is it possible that completion will have stages? Is it possible? Will you build in something that allows it to continue after your project ends? The significant thoughts, because what I want you to do, and what I think we need to be able to do, is express the sense of dialogue with the people who are involved. And to just abandon people at the end and say, oh, my project's over, I'm gone, not necessarily a very ethical or pleasant way of concluding things. So can we have a look at what we mean by completion, and what completion looks like, what achievement is, and what the actions will be at the end, or at the conclusion of this stage of your projects.